And tonight's political maniac is our good friend. Not really. Not my friend.
He's actually not our good friend.
Yeah. Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
Yep.
So we found out this past Thursday that Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself from any investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, despite the fact that Donald Trump expressed total confidence just hours earlier. Earlier in the day, prior to Sessions' announcement, Trump told reporters he did not think his longtime supporter and recently minted Attorney General should recuse himself. Meanwhile, the drumbeats of calls from some lawmakers of Sessions' recusal or even his resignation from the Justice Department grew increasingly louder throughout the day. This literally happened in like a 24-hour period.
Oh, it was a crazy saga. So this, I mean, as of when we're taping, it basically, like, the news broke last night, and all of this has happened within
And the news that broke last
hours.
night was that Jeff Sessions had multiple meetings with the Russian ambassador, right? And a senior official told NBC News that the White House learned about Sessions' contact during the 2016 campaign with a Russian ambassador from a reporter on Wednesday night prior to the story being published by the Washington Post. So somebody leaked that there was a meeting.
Well, this is significant because during Jeff Sessions' confirmation hearings, he explicitly stated that he had no contact with any Russian officials.
He was asked the question twice. He was asked the question once by Senator Franken, and then Patrick Leahy asked him in writing the same question. And both times he indicated he had no conversations with the Russians,
right?
Even though it was turned to find out that he indeed did have conversations with the Russians. Now, we don't know what these conversations were.
Doesn't matter what they are. It does not inspire confidence in your guy who is supposed to enforce the laws and that he is lying under oath.
And what makes it even more problematic is what Attorney General Sessions is saying is, well, I had these meetings as Senator Sessions and not as surrogate Sessions or not as transition team member Sessions. So
yeah, sure.
He did what I will give him partial credit for, half point, is recusing himself. But
I'm surprised he did that. But that's just an indication that things are really bad.
Yes.
Because if he had any way to just go along with Trump and say, screw you, you can't touch me, believe me, he would have done it.
But what makes the recusal so interesting is his recusal has a timestamp on it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not a full recusal.
There's an asterisk next to it.
He said in his statement that he's recusing himself from any investigation to Russian interference in the 2016 election. Now, stay with me, America, and I'll bless you. You got to follow the story on this one. The 2016 election ended midnight, November 8th.
Right.
So it happened November 9th through January 24th, January 21st. That period of time, one could argue, one can make an argument in court that those dates weren't during
the election,
the 2016 election. And now what makes this, stay with me and I will bless you, I promise you. What makes this more problematic is that the reason why Mike Flynn, former national security advisor, resigned from his position, which the White House indicates he resigned because he misled the vice president, but we believe it's for more nefarious reasons. That all happened during November 9th through January 21st, meaning that Sessions Attorney General cannot speak on or make decisions, any Justice Department decisions from, campaign starting to the November 8th. But everything after that, if he wanted to, he could say that our Justice Department won't prosecute what happened on the 9th at 12:01 p.m. regarding the Russians. Now, let's roll this back, right, and think about now all these pieces. You got to think, because there's all these different pieces here that work in tandem. So, piece number one, you have Paul Manafort.
Yep.
Right? Who was the second campaign manager after Corey Lewandowski. Nobody really knows where Paul Manafort came from. He just sort of showed up. They're like, oh, he was a great Republican hand. And I'm like, no, Patrick Gillespie, he's a Republican hand. Mercedes and Matt Schlapp, they're Republican hands. Kellyanne Conway, Republican hand. People they're around, they're usually pundits.
Right. They're around. They're in the room.
Schmidt, former John McCain's former campaign, a Republican hand, right? Mitt Romney's old campaign people, Republican hands. Paul Manafort hasn't been involved in a campaign since, God, like almost like we're at Ford, Gerald Ford. And most of the work that Paul Manafort has done has been around helping the Russians or like helping prop up. I mean, he's most notably known for helping prop up a Ukrainian prime minister who has connections to Putin, and he was sort of his Washington lobbyist.
Right.
So that's that guy. He's problem number one. Problem number two is Rex Tillerson, former Exxon CEO, who has never met Donald Trump until during the transition period, but was connected to Paul Manafort and others. Remember, there's huge sanctions on Russia. Exxon's biggest, you might not know this, Rich, Exxon's biggest oil exploration field in the world is in Russia and is caught up in said Russian sanctions. Remember, Tillerson is a friend of Russia. He has the highest award. It's like the American, like, what is it, like our Medal of Honor?
Yeah.
The civilian Medal of Honor.
It would be like the equivalent of like getting knighted in
the United Kingdom. And so he has that. So he needs this. Then you have Wilbur Ross, who's the Commerce Secretary, who only real claim to fame is he was the vice president of a Cyprus bank that's also connected to Russian billionaires whose money is all caught up in said Russian sanctions. Is this all coming together for you?
Follow the money.
Follow the money here. Now, one of Donald Trump's biggest real estate deals in America, one of the biggest real estate deals that he's had, right, was with a Russian billionaire who was going through a really, really, really bad divorce, right? And during this bad divorce, he was trying to park his money in different places. So he bought a property from Donald Trump for I think close to $25 or $30 million cash, right? This same Russian guy is connected to Wilbur Ross, Paul Manafort, all these guys. And even though he says he's never met Donald Trump formally, I just don't know how you would ever engage with somebody on a $25 million real estate deal.
Yeah, we've never met formally. We've met informally. I mean, yeah, you just have, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Trump's insulated, but you just have a situation where, he knows a guy that knows Trump. And it's basically like you've met.
And then you tie that all in with the fact that the only reason we know about the Mike Flynn calls to begin with is the people that Mike Flynn was talking to were being spied on because we believe them to be enemies of the United States of America. So Mike Flynn talking to enemies of the United States of America, Jeff Sessions meeting with the ambassadors and not remembering and then lying under oath about it. Paul Manafort, who's no longer part of the campaign, but says he's never had engagement with Russians, even though he was working for a government official that was propped up by Putin, right? You start to string this all together.
Yep.
And eventually you say to yourself, what the hell is going on?